35 just finished with a banger. But tonight, I and my panelists are going to cook on all the games that we played in this game week, from the top to the bottom. And trust me, guys, there's so much to cover. This is your Game Week
Hello?
35 Premier League preview. Welcome once again to All About Arsenal, and tonight we're going to spend some time talking about the games that took place all the way from Friday night to Monday. Typically, we do this on Sunday evenings, but we had a special couple of games today, starting from the one that was played by 3 o'clock, shockingly, on a Monday afternoon. That was actually a game about the trenches, to the game we all waited for tonight. And with me tonight is another man coming back after an awesome debut in the channel, Mr. Wachu. How you doing, bro?
Good evening, everyone. Nice to be back here. We just experienced a great match right now. We're just here to talk about the events and what happened prior before the games.
Awesome. And of course, I know you returning back to the channel, Apachino. How you doing, bro?
Let's just say words fail me. You understand? I can't express how my mood is right now. You know, it's been it's been like a funeral. You understand? Just like being at a funeral. You know, that's the feeling. So
I can understand. We'll talk about your session when we get there, man. It was really sad, especially how Mwachu's boys had an Onana moment, and for some reason you guys didn't capitalize on that. But we'll get there. All right, everyone. So this is the Game Week 35 Game Week review, and of course, me and my panelists are going to chill together to talk about it. For those on the chat, welcome as well. You know how we do here. You get your opinions out there, and we'll talk about it. And this is our clear agenda for the evening. We'll start with the Arsenal match review. You know, the guys at the top, the guys doing this stuff right now. We'll follow up with our title rivals watch. It was the game we just finished now, an amazing game of football. We'll look at the best of the rest, where folks like Doye and Match will come into play. We have our surprise of the week, where our panelists will say what surprised them the most in the game week. We have our injury and suspension watch, as always. Then, of course, we look at the table and we look at our prediction, because obviously Doye and Match were part of the folks that actually gave their predictions last game week. So I'm going to see how they panned out. Of course, we have a couple of folks in the chat. Idowu says, where's our league? Come on, you Gunners, man. Well, just one game at a time, bro. Let's not jump before we walk. And of course, we have Jordan in the chat, as always. Good to have you, man. So without further ado, I think we should start with the Arsenal match review. And this was a game where Arsenal finally took their legs off the handbrakes. You know, this was an Arsenal match that we're hoping for. Arsenal 3, Fulham 0. Okay, so I will start with you here and watch you. There was so much talk about Vitor Gyökeres, how he has struggled in the league, how he was supposed to be our next best team after Aubameyang. And yes, he has had his moments where he didn't do too well, and he had the ones where he had done well. But going into this game, scoring a brace, giving an assist, what was your honest take of his overall performance, and what do you think that will do for his confidence going forward in the rest of the games Arsenal has?
Yeah, I've always been a strong believer of Gyökeres. I've never questioned his ability to put the ball away. He has been a great striker. What I've usually questioned were his supply to his game. And you know, people tend to criticize strikers a lot when they don't score, but they also tend to forget that when they are not supplied enough, you won't get anything. You're not going to get any semblance of what you had expected of the striker. So if you've noticed, I've always been clamoring cross the ball for him, which is why I've been clearly disappointed at Madueke.
Yeah.
He has been the one who has had probably the most, second to Saka on the right wing, the person with the most minutes with Gyökeres, and he has failed to create an assist for him.
Yeah, terrible, man.
An assist for Gyökeres. Just one. So, I mean, I'm happy Saka is back, and we could actually see his influence after being missed for a few games. I hope they can continue with such pendulum right now and try and finish up with the league title. But you know, games differ by games differ by the time, and the Fulham we saw now might not be the West Ham we'll get to see this coming weekend. But
Yeah.
so far so good. I need more services to Gyökeres. I need more services to let him receive the ball and let him not do so well with the ball. Then we can now criticize him. But we cannot criticize him without when he doesn't receive the balls. That's just my take about him.
No, I agree. I agree. Good one there. Doye, Saka is someone that has really struggled with injury since December 2024. He had that terrible hamstring tear in the game against Crystal Palace, and since then, he has basically had a blight in how his games have gone. This season, after the Carabao Cup final, he had an Achilles injury that kept him out. And there was so much talk on how, he has not delivered despite being the highest earner at the club. So watching him play for 45 minutes against Fulham, what was the honest take of his performance? Do you think it's something he can build on, or do you think this is just a flash in the pan?
Yeah, I think it's something he can build on because I don't really want to call it. Okay, yeah, so build on is the right word, yeah. But however, Saka has proven that he's able to operate at this level consistently for a while, But during this Arsenal's renaissance, that's after the Obama young years and everything. Going forward, Saka has been Arsenal's best player. For me personally, I felt like he was the one that always gave the team bites in attack. And when you look at the way teams game plan against Arsenal, he was the one player that teams, that oppositions, you understand, usually sends two players to look after. What that did was it created space for the other
Yes.
players to do very well. However, his form tanked, and that game yesterday just basically showed what Saka is capable of when he's fit and firing. But it should also be noted that again he did very very well in the game, but for some reason I think the Fulham side that turned up to that game, they turned up to almost any other EPL game. Maybe against only Chelsea would that team get a result currently. You understand? Because the Fulham team they were atrocious. I saw the first half. And a couple of times the Fulham wingers let, which is down the Saka route. They let Saka and I think it was Gyökeres, so they let them sneak in behind the
Yeah, a
defender.
couple
Like
of
it
times.
was two. Yeah, I think that was the second goal also. He snuck it. It was just behind the winger, and the winger just didn't even take any reconnaissance of what was happening behind him. It was just an awful performance from Fulham. So you have to also put that into consideration. However, in terms of Saka's performance, he did really really well, and Arsenal 3 goals off at halftime. Arteta could afford to bring him out and rest him, against the running. So yeah, he did very well. I think he's capable of building on it.
Okay, awesome. So one other player I think we need to touch on was Miles Lewis Kelly. This was the first time he actually played as a central midfielder for the club after playing left back, throughout his career in the first team. And there was so much talk around him because Mendy, who has basically played so many games, was rested. But folks are really clamoring now in quotes for Miles Kelly to get a run out game against Atletico on the back of this performance. So would you say with the way he played was good enough for him to continue in that stead, or should people tamper their expectations with him?
Yeah, I mean, people should calm down with the expectations of him. It's just one game. Besides, that was a very terrible Fulham team. So, and last season, Miles Lewis Kelly, if I understand clearly, Miles MLS he has always been known to be a midfielder. When he
Yes.
was playing left back for Arsenal last season, it was a makeshift. He was a makeshift defender then,
Yeah.
before he was finally converted to the left back itself. But seeing him back at his favorite position, happening, it seems to be his favorite position for now. That's central
Yeah.
midfield itself.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
have, I am of the view that he should take it slow. Arsenal fans should take it slow yet. Um, Atletico is going to pose a different threat to
To
Fulham,
Fulham. Yeah.
very different threat, and I mean, there's already an established central midfield partnership with Subimendi and Rice. I think that is what Wenger. What did I say, Wenger?
At that time.
That's what Ateta should work with for now. Yes, Skelly had a great game over the weekend. Yes, but let's not forget the fact that Fulham were utterly terrible,
Okay, awesome.
utterly terrible. So if it were that, take for instance this game we just witnessed right now. If it were this Everton midfielder he had played and he excelled, and probably yes, I'll probably take a closer look at him and say yes, probably he has stepped up. But I'm not really going to give him much credence for now. He just had a great game at a very utterly confused midfield
Okay.
this past weekend. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. So I think the last thing we'll discuss about for the Arsenal Fulham game today will be Declan Rice as a six. You know, in his days in West Ham, he kind of built his legacy as a six for them. But when he moved to Arsenal, he played more as the eight with Partey and of course Zubimendi. But in the recent couple of games, he has gone back to playing at the base. Do you think that the very significant difference in his play now that he's playing as a six for Arsenal? Do you think this is what he should build on going forward next season?
Actually, I don't. But, again, to be honest, this season Declan Rice has actually played as the six in many games that I've seen for Arsenal. Many of the big games actually that I've seen for Arsenal. Even against City, in the games against City, he was usually the deepest player in the midfield, which was something that I noticed it and I was confused because I was thinking, okay, Subimendi was like a replacement like for Party. He sits it and lets Declan Rice, it gives him the freedom to go forward, and express himself. Now the thing with playing as a six, you have to be disciplined when you pick and choose, your forward forays. But when you play, you understand, as an eight, we play next to a six, you can easily go and come back. And the Rice has the legs,
Yeah,
to not just cover the back, but he has the legs to go join the attack, come back. Yeah. And a staple of his game when he was at West Ham was his ability to drive with the ball. Even
yeah,
at Arsenal,
progress.
there were periods where you saw him, carry the ball, from midfield and then driving into the opposition half and everything, commit players towards him, let their defense sort of collapse, and then he releases the pass, which this season he hasn't really done as much. But I think he's actually played a lot as a six, and I'm not really a big fan of. Look, he's a very good player in multiple roles. However, I just believe that his best role would be when he's able to join attack and also
Support
help the
defense.
defense. Right? Yeah, support the defense. Yeah, so that's what I think his best role is. Unless you want to play with a dual six system, also he can also operate in a dual six system. Because when you look at when Arsenal are playing Eze, Eze is a bit different from Odegaard with respect to his defensive work.
Yeah,
Odegaard can put in a shit, up and down, but Eze is usually more attack minded in that in the
role.
role behind, yes, the role behind the striker. So if you have Eze there, then you can have the right sitting with Mendy. He can up to go, he can come when he can go, he can come. That can also work. But personally, I think he should be more of an eight. If I had to pick one role for him, I think being an eight is a better role than being a six.
Okay, okay, that's perfect. So we're about to leave the slide, but we have an Arsenal fan here, so I think it really makes sense just to hear Dom's thoughts. So we have James on the channel. He says, "Thank you so much, Everton." Thanks, man. So Dom, just give us your honest thoughts on the game before we move to the next slide.
I'm still recovering from the heart attack I've been having watching that Everton City game. Well, sorry to be late. Sorry, I'm coming from. This
Another
is my third
stream.
third stream of the evening.
Yeah, you're in machine, bro.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, look, I thought it was a really good day for Arsenal. You know, it was a really brave selection for Mikel Arteta. He made the changes. And then he made the substitute changes as well to get players rest. So Rice had a rest, Subamendi had a rest, Saka got minutes and then had a rest. Um, I Hincapié got a rest. Gyökeres came off. So, while I didn't think any of the substitutes bailed down when played really well, Arsenal managed to get the win, get it comfortably, give some confidence to the players and the fans that this was still on and they actually had recovered from recent form, which I think was as much mental as it was tactical. And it was just a really good day from an Arsenal perspective. Fulham were poor. Fulham still had Europe potentially in their sights. I thought it was unlikely because of the amount of teams that would have to mess up ahead of them. But in theory, they still could have come. But I thought Fulham were passive. I thought they lacked any energy or aggression. Although they sat deep, they didn't defend with any intensity. And when sides do that, you can see the attacking play that Arsenal do have. I've said all season that I think some of Arsenal's issues in terms of the criticism of them are attack-minded has been the fact that opposition have been deeper against them than any other side, and that is a statistical fact. And Arsenal do lack imagination at times, and they can be too conservative, which I think is fair. But when sides do not defend with that intensity and leave a little bit of space and don't press aggressively in that final third against us, we had the ability to do that. And I thought it was a really good day, a really enjoyable day from an Arsenal perspective. And as I say, brilliant to see Miles Lewis-Skelly as well play the way he did. Saka being back, everyone's going to focus on the goals and the assists for Saka, but actually I think it was that burst of pace which really, really positive from an Arsenal and England perspective. And just overall a really good day. I will just very quickly, if I can, just touch on Gyökeres, who of course got the 2 goals, but most importantly back to Miles Lewis-Skelly. Obviously he played really, really well, but I think what the difference was, obviously, Lewis-Skelly was able to split the lines. He was defensively, he read the game well, won his duels. But I think there was clarity about who did what role in that dual pivot. And he was the more attacking one, and it was clear that was his role. Whereas I think Rice and Zubimendi have got a little bit mixed up about which one's going, which one's not. Are they both meant to be sitting? There was real clarity there because, of course, Lewis-Skelly is the more attacking one. And I think that really benefited him. And we saw it against Madrid a little bit with Rice and Zubimendi as well, where Rice sat a bit deeper and Zubimendi went forward. And I just think it doesn't matter what combination it is, that clarity about which one is doing which role in terms of a 6 and 8, I think really benefited Arsenal. But overall, really, really happy. And of course, tonight has helped that, even though I feel deflated, oddly, because City got that last minute equaliser.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So the comment from James here, he thinks Ateta should play Lewis-Skelly with him permanently. What's your take on that, Dom?
I think that's going to be the plan, right? I mean, I spoke about this yesterday, maybe. Look, if you'd asked me last season, will Arteta move Miles Lewis-Skelly to midfield? The answer was no, because he suited that left-back system so well last season. People say Arteta doesn't change his system. He does. We see regular tweaks to that system, and we see it slightly different year on year. And that left-back system has changed again this year, and it no longer suits him. And he is a midfielder by trait, so I think we will now see him in midfield more and more. I think, there is an argument for seeing it earlier in the season, but equally, it would have been a big risk if it had then gone wrong earlier in the season. And I think a lot of this has been behind the scenes, making sure he's in the training, he's doing it in training, he fully understands the role. We remember when Declan Rice and Thomas Partey arrived at Arsenal, they both said how difficult it was to learn the Arteta system in that midfield role. And that will apply to Lewis-Skelly as much as anyone else. So, I think you could have seen him earlier. I think Norgaard's the one I would have liked to have seen more this season to give Zubimendi and Rice a rest. But the future of Lewis-Skelly is 100% midfield. And the fact he can, I think we now have that Zubimendi cover in Miles Lewis-Skelly, and someone that can challenge and take the place of Zubimendi as well, if required, if Zubimendi drops off at all. So really good day for Lewis-Skelly, really good day for Arsenal.
Awesome. So let's go to our
sorry, hold on. Sorry, I just wanted to offer a little pushback. You understand on the whole. On the whole, I just feel like it's blazing. You understand right now. Arsenal fans are just, they're blazing over a Lewis-Skelly performance that I thought was good, but they have to understand that one thing with football is the more you play. Look, the best players are players that the opponent knows what the player is going to do, and the player still does what the player wants to do. Those are the best players in the world. Now, Lewis-Skelly hasn't played a ton in midfield. It was a surprise to both Fulham and the Fulham players and the Fulham management. You see Lewis-Skelly in midfield, you don't really know what to expect. Now you're going to treat him as the game starts as more or less like an empty book. You don't know what you're getting with him. However, the more he plays, the more teams understand how he likes to play. They start to understand his tendencies. So I just feel like a lot of us now fans are jumping the gun, because when you look at Martin Zubimendi, the amount of football that Zubimendi has played in his career to be where Zubimendi is, I feel like it's a bit sort of insulting to almost start equating or talking about replacing Zubimendi in the squad with Lewis-Skelly. The major reason why I'm having this pushback is this. If you remember when last season started, when Arne Slot moved Gravenberch into midfield for Liverpool, most teams didn't know what to expect with Gravenberch as the holding midfield player. Now, when you press Gravenberch, he turns under pressure. That is what he's great at. He turns under pressure. he drives with the ball. When teams figured it out, and I'm telling you this thing now from the almost from January last season up until the PSG game. Watch Ryan Gravenberch. Teams don't really press Gravenberch when he has the ball again. They let Gravenberch hold the ball because they know that his weakness is passing the ball. If you press him, he turns. But if you give him space to pass the ball, Gravenberch cannot play a pass that is say 10 yards beyond. It's to the nearest man or he's going back. So
It's a
teams have
simple,
figured it
simple
out.
pass. Get the ball, give it to
Yeah,
someone else. Yeah.
they figured him out, and then if you look at his effectiveness in midfield for Liverpool has now waned. If you went off of beginning of last season, there were people that were having the Gravenberch is the best holding midfielder in the Premier League tops. I wasn't one of them because I knew that you need to give these things time. There are players that have played in this role for a very long time. The opposition knows what to expect with these players, and these players are still performing. So again, for Lewis Kelly, it was a very good performance against a poor Fulham side. But I just feel like people need to calm down a bit. You understand with the reactions I'm seeing to that his performance.
Could I just come back? Because I agree with you. Because I was asked, would
Mm-hmm.
I start him tomorrow night? No, I don't start him tomorrow night because of exactly what you said. It was Zubimendi is a more experienced player. We need cool professional heads, and it's one game from Lewis Skelly. I think we've seen glimpses of it in midfield because of the way we played last season. The left back moved into that midfield role, but it's not the same. What I think we've seen though is a player capable, as I say, of moving into the role to be capable of covering Zubimendi when he needs a rest and rotation. That's that. And if he continues on, and I do think he's got a genuinely really high ceiling. He's the player that if Zubimendi's out of form, you can bring him in a little bit, but I don't think he replaces. I agree with you entirely. He doesn't replace Zubimendi for me in the lineup immediately because for exactly the reasons you've just said. And he's an 18-year-old kid still, and we will see up and downs in his form. So I agree with you entirely. But I think it was a really good day for him yesterday, and I think it was really carefully planned by Arteta. And it is
Yeah.
his natural position. We will see it. But you're exactly right. It's the analogy I would use is the NFL quarterback. Everyone says they're amazing in their first season, but it's the second season you get the real test about where they are. And we've seen Miles Skelly take a drop off this season because teams know a little bit what to expect. But I think the future for him in midfield is really bright because I think he's that good a prospect. But we will see peaks and troughs in that form as he gets there. So I think exactly what you said is absolutely right as well. I agree with you entirely, Appuccino. And apologies if I butchered your pronunciation of the name there.
Nice, cool.
Yeah, that's fine. All right, man. Nice chat about Arsenal and Fulham. I think it's time to delve into our title rival, which is Man City. So, there's a comment by James on the chat where he stated that talking to his City friend. Now, Man City will crumble without Rodri, and while City are beginning to lose players, Arsenal are getting their players back at the most perfect time. So, the first question to you is, how big of a miss was Rodri for City, and what is your take on this amazing game of football that took place this night?
No, I don't think Rodri was missed, and City has gotten over the fact that they are good. They are good. I mean, we are way past this Rodri's theory now about missing him. Should he have been on the pitch too, it would have been the same Carlos defending and Everton playing with their hearts out. Over the past year or so now, City have gotten used to the fact of playing without Rodri, be he absent or be he present. And obviously, we should know by now that Rodri doesn't play any much pivotal role now in the City's midfield now. It's all past glory effects right now, and nothing more than that. So back to the game, yeah. Kudos to Everton. I mean, they are a very solid bunch. No star player, just play team football. But I would say here that Ndiaye was clearly selfish, and he really
Yeah,
should have. I mean, he really should learn how to pass the ball. These are the kind of things. I mean, if it were Stena coaches, that opportunity he had where they were 4-2 and he didn't pass the ball, he should have been taken off immediately.
yeah, yeah,
He should have been taken off immediately. I mean, we had the opportunity. There was a counter attack. You were either supposed to pass to Barry or pass to Rowe. So why are you taking on the shot yourself? You had three defenders in front of you because you had the ball. Play it on to other players who had the opportunity to score. Yeah, so I mean, back to the game. It was a very exciting game, and Everton lost. you're vulnerable when you just scored. The moment they scored that third goal, they were clearly vulnerable and they allowed City in with that second goal, and that gave them hope. So and that's how you know that's how you differentiate the bigger teams from the lesser known bigger teams. So with or without Rodri would have still had a great spectacle of the game, and probably you don't know, probably City may have lost with Rodri around. So we can't really say. Yeah, I mean we
But
are way past
but,
that.
but
Mhm.
sorry, but you made the comment that you made the comment that City had played without Rodri. You
Yeah,
understand that they are learned to play without Rodri. However, the pushback for that is City haven't learned to win consistently without Rodri. Because since Rodri got injured, this season he got injured, which was last season. After he got injured, the City team fell apart. They fell apart. Pep managed, you understand, to get the team. It wasn't as if they went on a spectacular run. He managed to get the team back into Europe, which when you look at the way the league was, it was a very good job by Pep, but again, it wasn't like a fantastic achievement. And if you look at this season, City they have not been consistent this season. That was
Yeah.
the main reason why most people felt like Arsenal were going to run away with the league. The moment Liverpool fell off, everybody felt like, okay, look, Arsenal are going to run away with the league because City were not consistent, and those were periods where Rodri was in and out of the lineup. When you look at the way City played recently, from the games they played against Arsenal, Liverpool, coming down to this game, the recent run of form that they had been in, Rodri had been in the starting line, and suddenly Rodri isn't in the starting line, isn't in the starting lineup. Even against Southampton, they struggled. Even against Southampton, Rodri was they struggled. So again, to say that Rodri was not really a big miss, they haven't shown any form of consistency when he's not been in the lineup. And I think one thing with football is you need to understand that how you dictate tempo and how you control the game sometimes is what puts you in positions whereby certain mistakes can come about. Now, the Gay mistake was just a head scratcher, and it could have happened even with Rodri on the pitch. I give it to you. However, the way City reacted to going that goal down, to proceed and concede two more goals, without again, if you look at the spacing of the goals, then you can point to some sort of a leadership or some sort of influence at times on the pitch. You can say maybe the players, they panicked a bit or things like that. So again, I just feel like Rodri not playing was a big miss for City in this game. You're going to a difficult. Away at Everton is one of the most difficult EPL fixtures when you take out the some of the traditional like top four. That's one of the most difficult grounds to go and play football in the Premier League. You're playing with pressure. Arsenal have won three. Goal difference is an issue and things like that. A lot of things coming to me. So I believe they miss Rodri a lot.
Okay, fair
I,
enough. So,
I mean, I agree with Appuccino again here. I think the return of Rodri sparked the return of City. Well, not the return, but City then started losing that soft underbelly. If I go back to the summer, my prediction was Arsenal would win the league, Liverpool second, and City third, because I felt City had a soft underbelly, and I just thought Liverpool defense. And I'm being very simplistic here; it's a little bit more complicated. That Liverpool, I didn't like their window because I felt it was unbalanced, and that's why I thought Arsenal would win the league. I didn't expect it to be comfortable, and it looks like that part is definitely going to come true. But I think City definitely missed Rodri for all the reasons Appuccino just said. I think he protects that back four in a way that none of the other players do, and if you can get at that back four quickly, as Everton did tonight, they can be opened up again. Leeds have
yeah.
done it. Forest have done it. Everton did it tonight. Um, and Southampton, did it at times as was just said in that cup final. So it's it's one tonight where City felt the pressure and they couldn't handle it. And I think that has been the story of the season. Arsenal have done that at times. City have now done it, and I think it's because there are vulnerabilities in the City side. And I think from an Arsenal perspective, it's more mental than anything else because of the pressure and expectation of trying to do it for 22 years is so huge. But I don't think this title race is done. I think I'm a positive Arsenal fan. I believe Arsenal will win this league, but it's not done. I'm not jumping up and down for joy tonight because City are still good, but they definitely missed Rodri tonight. That game management, that ability to protect and shield the back four and just soak up the pressure and absorb the counter attacks really was missing tonight. Because Everton could have had another couple, by the way, as was mentioned earlier on. Barry learns to pass rather than going for goal from there, suddenly they get more chances. So it's an odd one in the title race, potentially defining. But had they lost tonight, I'd be feeling a lot more comfortable than them coming
Yeah.
back, because there is something in the fact that they came back and got that late win in terms of a momentum shift. And they will play next. They will have a chance to go within 2 points of Arsenal if they beat Brentford at the weekend, because Arsenal will play after them in a tricky tie away at West Ham. But they do miss Rodri. They definitely do.
Okay, fair enough. So, Macho, going into this game, in the last 6 games that Everton had played, they lost to Arsenal, drew with Brentford, lost to Liverpool, lost to West Ham. The only win in the last 6 was against a terrible Chelsea side that everybody is basically whooping. So, going into this game, was there any thought that you actually get any point against it in your own mind? Or do you think that City were going to just stroll past them? Bearing in mind that they had a very good record in Everton's away ground as well.
Yeah, yeah. I was of the belief that Everton were going to pull out at least a draw from the game, and I wasn't too surprised when they led 3-1 because they're a very gritty side, and I would also say City hasn't been at their utmost best this season, with or without Rodri. I mean, they haven't. They have just been wobbling and fumbling their ways through the games itself. And yeah, so I expected Everton to sit back and try and hit City on the counter, which was their plan, which worked for them for the 2 goals, excluding the set piece goal that they scored for the second goal. And they clearly should have had a fourth goal, if not for some unselfish play. So City fighting back was due to the lapse on Everton's part itself. Because if they were fully concentrated after scoring that third goal, they wouldn't have considered that second goal to give City hope of coming back into the game. Yeah, but I expected Everton to pick something out from the game, and they did not.
Disappoint.
Yeah, they did not disappoint.
All right, fair enough. All right, guys. So let's go to the best of the rest. And I'll start with you on this one. Leeds had a delicate situation playing against Burnley before going to play against other relegation rivals in Spurs and West Ham away. So this was a game that they absolutely needed to win to guarantee at least some measure of safety. So following this win against Bournemouth, they are currently on 43 points. Do you still believe that they need to still be careful in those 2 games against West Ham and Spurs, or do you think they are safe now?
Um, I think Leeds are safe. 43 points. West Ham and Spurs. I think West Ham is on 36 points. So basically, for West Ham to get to Leeds, they actually need to win 2 and draw 1. And part of the games that West Ham have, they have Aston in there. You understand? So I think Leeds are almost all but safe. The even most of the teams outside the relegation zone, I think it's going to be just for me, it's just going to be Spurs and West Ham that will take it out. Especially when you look at the gap that the teams ahead of West Ham have on them. And another crucial point thing to put out is that I think West Ham's goal difference, their goal difference is around minus 19,
Yeah.
and with Leeds, their goal difference is minus 5. So that's basically an extra point. You understand where I'm coming from? So that's basically an extra point. So even if West Ham do win 2 and draw 1, that's 7 points. 7 points takes them equal on points with Leeds, but Leeds have the better goal difference. So again, I believe that Leeds they've done enough to stay in the EPL for another season. Kudos to them,
Awesome.
anyways.
Yeah, so Dom, going into this campaign, Leeds actually had Joel Pirou in the championship scoring 19 goals. But when they got into the Premier League, they took a punt on the free agent in DCL. How big of a signing has it been for them? Bear in mind that he has scored 12 goals in the Premier League this season. And do you think they're going to upgrade on him in the summer or still continue using him next season?
Absolutely super season for Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Look, he was coming through at Everton and he was doing really, really well. And then he had that series of injuries over a number of seasons that obviously impacted his career. And it's one of those classic ones where a player leaves a club and their injuries just heal up. And I think some of it's mental. I think some of it, can be that change in them. But he's done really, really well. And that experience, I think, has been really crucial for Leeds. That Premier League know-how, understanding, and they play to his strengths really well. And it's one of, I think, the differences between Leeds and Burnley this season has been that sort of Premier League experience, and that I think ultimately will save them. And I agree that Leeds, I think, whilst not mathematically safe, are safe now. I think they will stay up. I think it's West Ham or Tottenham, and I think the fact it is West Ham or Tottenham, we're sort of getting into the final throws now, with Tottenham now getting uh, some sort of momentum, makes West Ham a really dangerous opponent in the next few weeks. But and Leeds will have to face them, so Leeds will have a big say in the relegation fight as well. But this was a big performance from Leeds, big result. You'd expect them to beat Burnley. They've sacked Scott Parker. I thought did a decent job at Burnley. He was never going to keep them up because I just don't think they invested to keep them up. They basically thought we're going to invest. If we can keep them up, brilliant, we go again. But they sort of prepared almost for the championship again and looked to use the money to build a strong foundation going forward. That was kind of their plan, but it was a comfortable win for Leeds in the end, and one that will see them stay up. Burnley will be starting to prepare for life in the championship. But I don't know who they're hiring in the summer, but I can't see it being Michael Jackson who's in charge now.
Awesome. Okay, so
I
let's
left
talk
out
of
all the Michael Jackson jokes, by the way, AT. I thought he'd do.
yeah, no. We're not doing that this evening.
No.
Okay, good to have you on channel, Gauda. Okay, so let's go to the next game. Matthew, this was the one between West Ham and Brentford. Going into this game, West Ham was in some good form, but this game doesn't really tell the true story because I watched this match and West Ham had three opportunities that clipped the post. Mavropanos also scored a goal, but Brentford actually got the victory. So, how big of a precarious situation are they in right now, following this bad result for them?
Like you said, I also watched the game, and in 5 to 6 years' time, people will always say that Brentford picked up the three nil victory, but they will not know how hard West Ham played in that game and how they were only millimeters away from actually pulling out a draw.
Yeah.
So yeah, so Brentford are among the informed teams right now. If you say the top five informed teams, Brentford are up there, and they are gunning for an Euro spot,
Yeah.
either UCL or Conference League. In
Yeah.
fact, they are almost certain now to qualify for what's that last one? Yeah,
The
Conference
conference.
League itself, not Europa.
No,
Yeah,
they're not certain. No. They are on 51 points. Brighton is on 50. Chelsea is on 48. Everton is on 48. Fulham is on 48.
yeah.
So,
That's why I said
That's
they are almost certain. They are almost certain on qualifying for Conference League, not Europa.
yeah.
Conference League itself. So, and there is still, like I said last week, there is still a lot to play for. City in
Mm-hmm.
itself are the biggest. I mean, they're the ones that are in a really tight schedule right now because they are playing their last four games that have three teams that are in the top seven, top
Yeah.
eight, all gunning for an Euro spot. It's going to be very tight, and those teams are in top form. You have Bournemouth who are in great form. You have Brentford who are in great form, and you have Villa too, who are
Villa
in a
too.
good. I mean, they're in a good form, but they are not in a great form.
No,
But
no.
they are in a good form, you would say.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So it's going to be a very tight end of season right now, and I mean, it's so much fun for us. It's so much
Awesome.
fun for us because we are not just concentrated on the top two right now. We're also concentrated on the. I would say the third position is almost gone to Man United. So we're looking
Mm-hmm.
at the fourth to the eighth position right now. It's a really tight affair,
Yeah,
and it's
true.
going the remaining three game weeks are all going to be very exciting for teams who are gunning for position. Right now, you are certain that managers are not going to rest players. They are all going to play their available best right now. So there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing like he's trying to. I mean, all the players everybody's now they are all going to play at once, all at the same time. Yeah. So Brentford in itself, I would say they were the team who were the more informed than West Ham, and they were fortunate enough to come out with a clean sheet because West Ham really should have had a goal scored in itself. But
Okay.
I think West Ham's subsequent game against Arsenal, they are really going to go out for it. And I don't know which Arsenal will turn up on that day because that's usually the problem with Arsenal now. They will play so well
sorry.
in this. Mm.
No,
Yeah.
finish up, finish
Go
up,
ahead.
finish up.
No, I'm just saying that we don't know which Arsenal will turn up in next game week now, but that's beating the gun. You haven't asked me the question yet. So go ahead,
Yeah,
do it.
yeah. Do you do you realize that Brentford, this was their first win in say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in 7 games?
Yeah, they have been drawing like crazy since.
Yes, when you said they were the most one of the most informed teams, I was surprised. I had to go and check.
No, at home,
And
at
funny
home,
enough,
at home.
No,
I
Brentford
even
are
forgot to
the,
include
drawing more
at
than
home.
Banksy.
no, no,
that's what I'm
even at
saying.
home, they were drawing too many games. Actually, they were.
The last the last game Brentford won at home, if what I'm looking at here was 7th of January against
Sunderland.
Sunderland.
Yeah.
That's
Oh
the last game
wow.
they won at home. Yes,
Okay.
Yeah,
they haven't been.
they have been drawing too many games. I agree.
Yes, they've just been difficult to beat.
Yeah, but Doye, the since you're speaking right now, if they are told you at the beginning of the season that Brentford will be seventh place with all the selling players they sold and the manager they changed, would you have thought it to be possible? And how good has
No,
Otamendi been for them?
if you remember when we had one of the first podcasts here, I said Brentford were one of the teams that I believe were going to go down. So again, from saying that, to coming here now and having this conversation about Brentford and Europe, it was something that none of us actually saw coming. So you have to give Brentford, you understand, kudos. And for some reason, they just seem to have this knack of always having a really really good striker in the Premier League. Because when you look at it, goals is something that
Yeah,
they haven't
from
really struggled from
Watkins to Ivan
from to Ivan
Tony
Tony,
to
in the Premier League, to
Brisa to
Tony and
Thiago.
Mbuemo
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
now Thiago. So again, if you remember when we are discussing some of this, I said when you have a team that has goals in the team, you can do things in this league. And kudos to them, they found a way to get Igor Thiago, scoring, having 22 league goals is very very impressive.
yeah, yeah.
He's
It's
been.
amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. I
Yeah,
agree with you.
outside Haaland, he's been clearly, the second best forward in the league this season. So yeah, kudos to Brentford, kudos to their manager. They did very well. I just looking forward. Sometimes you just have to invest because you don't know when you're going to take that massive step backwards. They have to look for a way to build on it in the summer. The vultures are already circling again. You're hearing talks of it's 80 million or something like that for Igor Thiago. Selling him when you keep on selling, to keep on locking into replacements is not an easy thing to
Yeah,
do. So
yeah, yeah.
you,
Because
you need to
yeah,
be really
if you
careful.
look at Brighton, they sold Busima, got Caicedo. They sold Caicedo, but the Baleba now hasn't really cooked. So sometimes it doesn't just
Yeah,
work
but
out
he
that way.
but he did. Yeah, no, but Baleba actually even did for them to have been, if Brighton said 80 million, Baleba would have been a Manchester United player by now.
Yeah,
If you understand where I'm coming from, had Brighton
I
said 80 million, he would have been a Man U player by now. So again, but for how long? That's just what I'm saying. Eventually you're going to get it wrong. And when you get it
the,
wrong, you may end
the
up in the
Premier League.
championship before you play.
The Premier League is littered with examples of teams having to sell their best players and not be able to continue the
Recover.
rebuilding.
Yeah.
Southampton, West Ham, Newcastle. Okay, there were other issues at the latter
Wolves.
two. Wolves again. Yeah,
Oh
exactly.
man, that Wolves squad that had Jota, Jimenez,
Vitinha.
Vitinha, my
Vitinha.
good Ruben Neves. They just binned all those guys, man. Like wow. Man,
Charlton Athletic going further back. It's littered with that. At some point, it catches up with you. Brighton have been incredible to keep it going as long as they have done, but at some point, it will bite them. And the same, I think you're actually right here. That's the fear for Brentford, isn't it? That this all goes wrong for them. But they've been incredible this season. I think they deserve their credit. I didn't have them to go down. I thought they would survive and finish somewhere about 14th. For them to be seventh with 3 games to go is just
yeah.
magnificent and well done to them, even if they have drawn more than Banksy at home this season. But
Yes, but yeah,
this
but
this this
but
was a
don't.
closer game, as you guys say, and it was pivotal. It keeps Brentford in the hunt for European football, and it does make West Ham really dangerous next 3 games. I keep mentioning it because I'm having a mild heart attack ahead of Sunday's game against West Ham, but but really well done to Keith Andrews and Brentford. But you're exactly right. With most teams at the bottom can defend to some extent, but scoring goals is often the problem. And Brentford are able to score a goal. And I do think that the change in the Premier League that's been notable this season, but it's been going that way for the last couple of seasons, towards this more attritional league, really suits Brentford down to the ground. They understand how to play it and get the most out of it, and they do it really, really effectively. And great credit to them. Do I think they've drop off next season? Yeah, I do. But well, this season, great play, fair credit to them, and I'm delighted
Awesome.
for them. But I do wish they'd lost this game because I really, really want Spurs to go down.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Okay, so Dom, let's stick with you on the next one. This has actually been a serious rot for Eddie Howe and his lads. From the Barcelona 7-2 drowning to losing at home.
Sorry to interrupt, AT. Was that a pun, by the way, on Eddie Howe? Hooray, hooray, the lad. Hooray, the lads, obviously being a real sort of local phrase.
Oh yeah, for Newcastle, yeah.
Yeah.
But it has been terrible, man, in recent weeks, and there was even talk about his future. So this game against Brighton was one I actually didn't expect them to win, but I think in the return of Bruno G actually played a role in that. So the question now is, where does Newcastle go from next? Because this has been a disastrous campaign in all ramifications.
It's not a surprise to me, because if you look at Villa and Newcastle recently, in the last sort of 3 or 4 years, they've gone Champions League drop off, because trying to go deep in Europe and maintain a Premier League, competing towards the top, towards those European places, is really difficult because you have to have a deep squad, and Newcastle don't have it. They have a fantastic midfield three. They have an okay defence. And obviously they lost Isak last season, which really didn't help. And I really actually think that the noise around Isak in the summer really didn't help. They couldn't get a striker in. They had no director of football or scouting network. Eddie Howe was trying to do the lot. And I think that has really impacted them this season. Those two aspects of European football and the poor summer in terms of the behind the scenes stuff and ability to plan and prepare for the season has cost Newcastle this season. I think Eddie Howe is still a decent manager. I think he's a manager that can manage a club up to and including sort of competing for Champions League place. So I think that's his level. So I can understand if Newcastle sack him this summer, but I'm not sure they should, because I think he works really well there. I think he's liked, generally speaking, by the fans. I think there's a good bond with the players, and I think he will bounce Newcastle back next season, back towards Europe. But this was a win Newcastle needed badly. And it's a big hit for Brighton as they look for Europe as well, by the way. Maybe that helps Brighton going forward in terms of just missing out, because they can kind of keep their squad together a little bit, and they can go again, because Brighton have been building slowly over the last few years despite losing key players. But this was a big day. And but that said, Brighton nearly got something out of this game. They did nearly. Newcastle made it safe late on, and they kept going. Credit to them. But yeah, a really interesting one. I think a result Newcastle needed, because I think otherwise it could have been a really sour end to the season. And I don't think they're going down, but you could see how they could have got sucked into that.
That dog fight, yeah.
That fight. I never felt they were going down, but yeah, I think a bigger hit for Brighton really than it was for Newcastle, but a much needed win for Newcastle.
Okay, fair enough. So let's talk about Brighton. They had actually picked some good form in recent weeks, getting up some very, very good results as well. But now this loss has actually put a dent in their European qualification hopes. Do you still think that they still have what it takes to get ahead of the likes of Brentford and Bournemouth for a European place with the remaining 3 games?
Of course, they do have they can get in front of those teams, because first and foremost, their next 2 games are very winnable games. They're going up against Wolves and then Leeds United. Leeds United probably would have been safe by then. Leeds United are not really going for Europe or anything, whilst Brighton are. So I think if they can get 6 points from those 2 games, it may be enough, because when you look at the teams ahead of them, Chelsea, or the teams ahead and around them, Chelsea have to play Liverpool. I think Brentford have to play Man City, and Bournemouth also have to play Man City. That basically right now have zero room for any more slip-ups. Any more errors. So you know that those games, the opposition is going to be up for it. So they have a really good shot at making it into Europe. And you have to also remember they have the best goal difference with those teams around them outside of Chelsea. But with the way Chelsea are right now, you don't really see Chelsea going in that direction. What I say, possible
Yeah.
going the other way. So I think everything is poised and set for Brighton. If they can manage a result in their next game, first and foremost against Wolves, which they should, then suddenly you understand they are back in it, and then they could be. Again, this is it's just to try and at least position yourself. At least if you get to sixth, position yourself there because Aston Villa, anything can happen in the game against Forest if they manage to go through win the Champions League and suddenly Brighton can find themselves even in the Champions League. So again, the next two games are crucial. Win those two games and then you're in a very good spot. The last game of their season is against Manchester United. However,
Yeah.
Manchester United would have, or they probably would have sealed third. They can't go no higher than that. They can't go no lower than that. So
Lower.
they wouldn't have the motivation as much as Brighton would to to get a result in that game. So I really believe that if you're asking me right now, who the favorite is, from those three teams, like who I feel is going to finish higher up between all of them. I think right now I'm going to even go with Brighton because when you
Okay.
look at the Bournemouth fixtures, you understand they aren't easy also.
Awesome. So, Watchu,
Yeah.
when Newcastle sold Isaac, obviously they bought Votmad, they got you and Wisa. You saw the young William Osula in the ranks. What was your thought process towards that replacement? Were you thinking that these guys would do enough to cushion the goals that were removed by Isaac? Because obviously Isaac had 21 goals in the previous campaign. But watching Newcastle this season, Votmad already started very well. But at some point he lost his place. Then Wisa obviously had a knee injury. But right now, it's William Osula that's leading the line for them. So what exactly does the future look like for the number 9 position in Newcastle?
Okay, so first off, I don't think they were ready to let go of Isak. They weren't certain that they were actually going to let him go, which means they were also weren't getting ready to. They weren't ready to get a replacement for him before it suddenly dawned on them that Isak really wanted to leave and they were about to let him go, and it was a rush market to get Volta Mada and Visa. Like I said earlier last week, the disappointment actually has been Wisa himself because he has been in the Premier League for over 3 years right now, and he already has the Premier League experience. And it's unfortunate he had the knee injury that really cut out about 4 to 5 months of his career with Newcastle. I mean, that would have eased in Votamada into the team had Wisa been had he set the ball rolling on his debut with Newcastle. But then again, he had to get injured, and everything now fell on Votamada. And we know how it is with strikers who come into the league newly. There is a gestation period. You have to try and blend in. It takes you about a few games to get into the grittiness of the EPL itself. It's usually rare where you see strikers who come into the league and they hit it off immediately. You have to try and get used to the league before you now blend in with the physical nature of the league. So that was what happened to Volta Mada, and yeah, he hasn't been able to come to terms with the grittiness of the league itself, which is why we're now seeing Osula take over as the starting nine. And kudos to Sula, he has put in the work. He has been he has been ready when called upon, and he has delivered. I mean, but it's kind of a slight to Wisa and Watermada that they are the ones with the bigger paychecks and bigger sign-on fees, and they haven't been able to prove their mettle in the team that we brought into. Yeah, so um, I would say you just take it as Joye said initially. This season hasn't augured well for Newcastle. I hope they can keep these new clocks because there is a fusion amongst them. But due to the fact that they are not going to play Europe next season, they might lose one or two midfielders,
Yeah,
which might be a problem.
like Tonali. I think he might
Yes,
leave this
yes,
summer.
like Tonali,
Yeah,
and
so
yeah, so he
Tonali
might
feels like
leave.
the one that will go.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
so but this blend, these nucleus they have now, if they can keep them together, let's see how they will fare next season.
okay, fair enough. Okay, a
Mm.
couple of comments on the chat. SSB says, "Bro, City collapse." Yeah, I see rain on the city stuff. That's fine. Okay, Dom, let's talk about Wolves Sunderland. Everybody knows that Wolves are basically done and they're already making plans for life in the championship. But Sunderland, funny enough, is a team that has basically crept all the way down. There was a time when they were like seventh and have been unbeaten in the Stadium of Light, and people were talking about how they were doing very well. Which is fair to say that the early wins they had was so recent they're currently in the Premier League because the way their career, their campaign has gone so far has really derailed.
Yeah, I undoubtedly. Look, I didn't see this game, to be blunt, but Wolves have been preparing for life in the Championship since September, to be honest with you. And I think, their January transfer window was very much aimed at that. But I think Rob Edwards has done a decent job there since he came in, overall, given what he's got at his disposal. And I think, he will do a decent job if they keep him, which I think they should and will in the Championship next season, where he will undoubtedly be rebuilding them. But Sunderland's fall off isn't a surprise, right? I mean, January was obviously tough for them because of the AFCON stuff. They lost a lot of their players, and they started like an absolute train. They were never going to be able to sustain it. So their drop off doesn't surprise me. I think they'd be very disappointed though not to go and beat Wolves. Still, because I think they could have done with that result. But Sunderland's season has been excellent. Okay, yes, they're 12th now. They've not won in the last three, but overall, a really good campaign from Sunderland. Wolves is one to forget, but I think, I think they're starting to build their base again to come back. And I think it'll take a season or two maybe, but they'll be fine and will come back. But Sunderland can be very proud of their season.
Okay, so Doye, was the red card justified for Ballard?
I actually didn't see the game, you understand? So I didn't even see the tackle.
Oh, yeah. No, so basically what happened was that they played the ball, he was backing Tolu, and he dragged Tolu's his locks, his dreadlocks.
Okay, the hair, the locks. Okay, I think I saw it. Again, personally, I look, I believe that when they talk about the hair grab, I believe it's over refereed. That's just what I think, because it's a very, very unusual. It's a very, very unusual situation when players are jostling at times. There are times when players are jostling and things like that. You're trying to grab onto anything. If you look at the one that they sent up Lisandro Martinez for the hair pull on Calvert-Lewin, it was ridiculous. You understand? Because again, the hair pull, it was you're jostling, you're battling, you're grabbing jerseys, you're tugging arm. Now, if I can't tug your hair, but I can tug your I don't know if I get my point.
Because if you were Gabriel and Haaland, right? They were basically wrestling each other.
It's what you can hold. Now, the only other thing there would now have to be, unless you're now telling the players that have flowing hair, that they have to pack their hair some sort in some sort of bonnet or something going into the game so that the hair is not flowing. No, because that's the truth. Because in the heat of the moment, when things are happening, you understand, you can be trying to grab a player's shirt and then you get a hold of the hair and you tuck the hair. So I just believe that it should be refereed differently. You understand? I've seen the hair grab. The first one I saw was actually one on Cucurella, where Vieira looked at it. I think it was Cucurella against Tottenham or something like that, and Vieira looked at it, and then because it was so unique, the VAR person looked at it and said there was nothing, like he didn't even tell the ref to send him up, and then they now scored Chelsea from the resulting corner kick. There was a corner kick, there was the hair grab. They looked at it, they cleared it. Then the corner kick again, they scored Chelsea, something like that. And the VAR official was very confused because this is on statutory. Now they said, okay, all hair grabs are red cards because it's like violent conduct. Again, I'm not really a big fan of the hair grab. It's a straight red card. Personally, I don't think it is.
I agree with you. Yeah. I think that's spot on. I think it's about intent, isn't it? Because essentially, what you could do is have a leg-breaking challenge, which could be seen as a yellow card because you've not intended to go in, and a hair tug where you've gone for the shirt or you've gone to sort of move your arm and you've got caught, which I think is the one Martinez did. He went to move his arm across and he got his fingers caught in the hair and it looked like a hair pull. I think it's about intent. Are they running? You've gone yank and you held on, or have you realised you caught the hair and let go instantly, which is what happened recently. So yeah, I agree with you. I think this has to be looked at, and they have to look at this rule. It's a bit like the kicking the ball away last season is an automatic yellow card. They've taken it to the extreme here at times here, and I think this needs looking at in terms of the rule. But no complaints by the way, for the sending off. from the referee following the rule book. I just think this is one where the rule book needs reviewing.
No, fair enough. All right, so let's go to the next game. And this one was between Bournemouth and Crystal Palace. So, Matthew, clearly Crystal Palace had their minds in their Conference League game in Europe. There's a lot of rotation, and I think Bournemouth basically capitalized on that. So the question is it what we should expect from Crystal Palace going forward?
No, no, definitely not. Yeah, like you said, they had their mind, especially at the semi-final game
Shakhtar.
with Shakhtar itself, and due to the fact that okay, thankfully it wasn't a long travel, and the fact that teams don't go to Ukraine any longer. Shakhtar played their European games at Poland. Yeah,
Yeah,
so it wasn't that much of a travel in itself. So I wouldn't say they were wary. They just they had a wholesome change of about 8 players or so to rest their core players and for the final. Yeah, Bournemouth were the more determined team, and they showed why. Again, they are fighting for an European spot itself. They might just replace Crystal Palace at the conference section or Europa in itself. So they have a target, and they have looked at their run of fixtures, and they've seen that probably. I would just say, just give me a second. Let me run through that. I would probably say City might just be their only tough
who?
fixture ahead
But
for them.
Palace or Bournemouth?
No, Bournemouth.
Okay, no, so Bournemouth,
I
what
think
they
they
have
have
right now, Fulham City,
Fulham,
Nottingham
City,
Forest.
Yes,
Forest.
yeah. So yeah, that's what I said. I think like, according to the way they look at the fixtures, they probably assume that City might be their toughest opponent, and they will look forward to picking up points from Fulham and Forest. Haven't done that already with Crystal Palace. So their main focus now is trying to finish as high as they can, and yeah. And thank you, Joey. Actually, I was going to say it was Bournemouth that were actually the team that were on form and not Brentford.
Okay,
It was Bournemouth I had in mind. I don't know why I was saying Brentford. Yeah.
yeah, that's fine.
So yeah, and I believe should Villa win Europa, I think the sixth place will also go to an English team, right?
Yeah,
If Villa
Yep.
finish sixth, if Villa finish
Fi-
fifth,
Fifth, yeah.
fifth they finish fifth.
Okay. If Villa finishes fifth, then the sixth
as,
place.
Yes.
yeah. If they finish fifth and still win the Europa,
And that's the
then
point. So, yeah,
yeah,
if they finish fifth and still win the Europa. So that's the thing. Yeah. And currently, Bournemouth is currently sitting on the sixth position right now.
yeah,
But they are closely followed by Brighton and Brentford, the triple Bs. Yeah.
yeah,
So, Bournemouth is more of, they have a desire now to stay where they are and not sway results right now. So getting past Crystal Palace is the first step. Getting past Fulham,
Fulham,
which they have next will be, but that will be a very dicey game because I do not expect the Fulham that turned up against Arsenal to turn up at their home front. I for one, I think I don't think Bournemouth will come out there with a victory itself because Fulham will be hurting from this disastrous play they had against Arsenal, and you know how solid they can be at home.
yeah,
Yeah,
true, true. All right, so Dom, this was also a game where the two clubs have managers that are setting to leave in the summer. Iraola certainly not signing the deal, and Glasner actually talking a long time ago that he was going to leave the club. Where do you see Bournemouth and Crystal Palace next season in terms of one, the personnel that will remain, and in terms of the potential styles they might be able to change to?
I mean, if I knew the answer to that, I'm putting numbers on the lottery, mate. I mean, so, yeah, look, I think, both have real shots at Europe, right? Because Bournemouth, as the guys were talking about, have a chance through the league, and I think you'd probably make Palace the favourites to win the Conference League, or certainly have a good shot at it, which gives them, I think, a Europa League spot. So that makes them quite attractive. The Premier League obviously still has money, more money than most other European sides, apart from the very, very top ones, which means it's possible to attract players there. So they are attractive jobs for someone, but they're also going to be difficult jobs to come in and take over because Areola's and Glasner have done excellent jobs at Bournemouth and Palace respectively. So
Yeah,
it is a gamble. I think given how well they've done, you'd expect both teams to take a step back, particularly if they're in Europe. Although they can attract the players, I was talking about it earlier with Newcastle and Villa, how difficult it is to sustain runs when you haven't got the squad. So, it's going to be very, very interesting for them. But it's impossible to say exactly how it's going to go because you don't know who's going to be in charge and what the summers look like. But it would be an amazing season if they for both clubs if they make Europe, and it will give fans something to really enjoy next season, as Palace have done this season. But this game, this game was a walk in the park for Bournemouth, just because Palace had their thoughts elsewhere, understandably so. They're on the verge of their first ever European final, which would be massive for them and the club.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so let's go to the next one, and I think this one I expect Dewey to get a little bit emotional about. Man United beating Liverpool. So I'd like to just get your honest thoughts on the game from basically losing, considering those two early goals to Man U gifting you guys back into the game. So you could be mindless, basically having that dagger in your heart. So can you just give me an overview of how the game was for you, watching it, and your final thoughts?
Well, watching the game, I actually didn't see the first half.
Lucky you.
Funny enough, I was carried away. The game before the game that they were playing before the Liverpool game, I had no idea that they overlapped. So when the game was coming to an end, I just went on live score and I saw 2-0, and I was like, wait, what's happening here? This is like 14 minutes into the game, 2-0, and I was like, because again, mentally, you understand, I've almost checked out of the season because I just believe that the team, they're going to do enough to make the Champions League,
Yeah.
or the teams around them wouldn't do enough to capitalize. You get on their slip ups or whatever, So they're going to make the Champions League. The game itself was the story of our season. The story of the Liverpool season. You saw so many. You still saw so many mistakes. Despite being given a chance back into the game, you still saw so many mistakes. The goal, Manchester, Firmino's goal. You saw McAllister and the kid Rio Ngomoa. I don't want to, single him out because when he came on, he was one of the players.
He looked bright actually.
Exactly, and a lot. Look, during the preseason, he was very good in preseason. So when Liverpool let Diaz go, a lot of Liverpool fans were believing, okay, now he's not at the Diaz level yet. But with Isak and Ekitike, at that point, you hadn't even contemplated the way injuries. You understand, injuries is just a very funny stuff. But you hadn't looked at it, and you hadn't seen the kind of drop off that Salah was going to have. So we just believe that with Salah, Gakpo was actually really good for long spells last season. The difference between him and Diaz was a bit more consistent across the whole season, but they were crucial spells where Gakpo was actually playing better football than Diaz.
Yeah, coming clutch.
Last season. Yeah, last season. So you just do that with Salah, Isak Ekitike, and Gakpo on the left. If you need to rotate Gakpo, you understand this boy can come in and at least do a job, even if it's 20 minutes. However, the way the coach has used him and certain other players off the bench has been a disgrace. He sometimes he keeps them on up until the 80th. In fact, the fans had to start clamoring for Rio before the coach even gave him any sort of game. And when he gave him a game, recently in the game that Liverpool won, was it not 2-0 or something like that, where he and Salah scored? The next game he's on the bench against PSG, then he's on the bench again, he's on the bench again. He's not gotten any starts since then. The last start he gave him, he performed, but now he's on the bench, when you look at the players, Liverpool's biggest issue during Klopp's last season was central midfield. And with Gravenberch's emergence last season, we felt like, okay, we've covered at least to an extent, we have that position. Like, it's no longer as pressing a need that you can go one season and it wouldn't come back to bite you. However, when you look at the way last season ended, you saw the centre midfield had started falling apart with Gravenberch's decline, you understand? Mm-hmm. And this season, it has just gone, from bad to worse. There was a Twitter, whatever, that they were asking what's Liverpool's biggest problem. And I said, look, it's not even the defense. Because if you look at the defense, there's been issues with the defense. There's been issues in attack. There's been issues in midfield. But I just believe that the centre midfield, you understand, has been the biggest problem for Liverpool because they cannot even help the team progress the ball up forward. They cannot even help the team. You understand? They cannot defend to save their lives. You have players constantly running up of the back of the midfield players and things like that are going to. So again, it's just been a terrible, terrible, terrible season. I believe that if Liverpool are going to seriously contend for the league, you understand, next season, the midfield has to be the main point of emphasis with respect to signings. At this point, if Konate is staying, I don't think they need him. They need another
Centre back.
central defender. Yeah, because you've gotten Van Dijk. If Van Dijk is there, Konate is still going to be there. You've gotten the jacket boy from the French league and
Yeah, Jeremy Jacket.
yeah, and the boy that you got from the Italian league, Leone, is going to be back.
Did his ACL?
Yeah, he's going to be back. So now you have four, centre back options. You understand? If you're going to go to get another centre back,
you also have Gomez too now.
No, please, no. We don't have Gomez.
Joe Gomez has got to go, right? I mean, you spent big on Xhaka, right? Ahead of it. Joe Gomez, he could replace Gomez, right?
Even if we didn't spend on a central defender, Joe Gomez has served us enough. We should thank him for his services, and he can go to again. He's been that awful. You understand? His Liverpool spell has been. I said he's also had been atrocious. You understand? He has
2 league titles, right?
You can have 2 league titles and still be atrocious. It does not matter. Anyways,
I'm just saying because in a few years' time, he will be analyzing for one of these American sports shows with his 2 league titles.
But he can be a Phil Jones on one of those shows. Kudos to him. You understand?
I was about to say Phil Jones.
But anyway, Joe Gomez needs you can't have Joe Gomez as an option if you're a serious club because he's not good enough. He gets injured all the time. Yeah, again, he can go. We are looking to ship out players. Certain players shouldn't be playing for Liverpool at this point in time. Curtis Jones is one of such players, you understand? Those are the kind of players that I believe that if Liverpool wants to be serious contenders next season, those players need to go. You bring in other players capable of being your starters. Because look, McAllister did not become a bad player overnight. He's been poor this season, but he did not become a bad player overnight.
Okay, but ideally, Salah going. Who's your dream right winger to replace him?
It's obviously Michael Olise. Everybody's talking about Olise. There was talk about him having.
Can you guys afford him?
Look, again, this is the English league. You understand, the Premiership. The only teams that can contend with the Premier League when it comes to finance is only Real Madrid. Not ideally Real Madrid and maybe PSG. But even with PSG, there's still the glamour that the English league has that the French league does not have. You understand? You see players. The players are going to. If you want this player to come to the Premier League and you go out for the player and you're willing to spend, you understand? Most players. Harry Kane has won the German league twice. Trust me. If Harry Kane wins the Premier League once, that one title in a way is going to almost overshadow the 2 he's won in Germany.
There's also there's also that with Olise, you're not going to be competing against Paris for him either because Paris aren't going to be in for a right winger with the amount of wingers they have.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So again, Olise is the dream target. You understand? Outside Olise, there was talk of Diomande. But the biggest problem is had the manager played Rio, given Rio Ngomoa, say close to almost 30 minutes or roughly around that per game, we would have had enough sample size to now really evaluate what you want to do with him going into next season. Yeah. Because you don't want to enter the season with somebody you think is an option and then the season starts and then you realize, okay, this guy is not an option in this position. You get where I'm coming from. So that's left a vacancy there. And it's a pity, you understand, the way things are panned out for Liverpool from Jota's death, Ekitiki's injury. Like going into next season now, we're going into next season with just one centre forward, which is Isak, that is injury prone. You have Gakpo that can play there. If Salah leaves, Chiesa leaves, Ekitiki is not going to be available. You understand? Those are 3 options that they had in attack, and you now have just Isak and Gakpo. And Isak is having these issues. Now if you go out and you sign players and they come, when the ones that are injured become fit, at the point now you now have too many options, they say, and then it then becomes a mess. So again, there's a lot of figuring out for the board and the people in charge to do. My hope is they do this figuring out without slots. Let's move
Yeah.
on from slots. That
Yeah.
is the hope of almost every Liverpool fan. I don't know how the board expects with the way Liverpool fans feel towards slot and the team this season. I don't know how they expect that him staying till next season is going to be tenable because at the slightest poor performance, yeah, you get people are going to be coming for he and the team, and it's
Yeah.
unfair on the team. The guy has done really well, but look, from last season, I said it all along. Had Arsenal been serious enough, okay, look at what happened. Look at the difference between last season and this season is the January window. What do I mean by that? Liverpool were almost looking poised to win the Premier League. They were close to like 7 points clear of Arsenal. After going to the January window last season, and they don't do anything to strengthen the team, to help the team. They had a lot of injuries. They didn't do anything to
Yeah.
help the team. Liverpool run away with the league eventually.
Especially in attack. They had
Yeah,
Jesus was injured, Havertz was injured, Saka was injured. Yeah.
Can I just
and,
come
and,
in?
and,
Can I just come in on that very quickly? I would like
yeah,
to point out though that Arsenal were not in the best of financial positions to do a lot in January. They basically bid the money they had for Ollie Watkins, and I think. So I think the big factor last season was Liverpool were on fire in the first half. Salah was amazing, and you stayed relatively injury-free. Arsenal really struggled with injuries last season, but Liverpool deserved the title 100%. They
no,
were the worthy
no,
winners of the title, but
the,
I
the, the,
think
the
that was a
point
bigger factor.
the point I'm making is this: if you look at the way the league ended, the league didn't end with Liverpool cruising to the title. The league ended when Arsenal when Arsenal fell off towards March.
Yeah, we
At the
started
point in
concentrating on
February,
the
you understand?
Champions League, basically.
At the point in February, you understand? It looks like Arsenal were almost gonna even make a push. Then they dropped some crazy they had some crazy results and then they fell off. The parallel I'm trying to draw is Manchester City were in the same position Arsenal was last season, and Arsenal were in the position Liverpool were last season. You understand? The difference now is Manchester went into the market in January, got Gehi and Semenyo that helped their season. And
Yeah.
and and those are the major additions. But if you look at the City team, again, it gave them something that enabled them to now make this current title
Push.
charge that City are this push that they are on, and are making it difficult for Arsenal. Had
Yeah.
City not gotten Semenyo and Gehi
They've
in
been
January,
long
this
gone. They've
league
been long
title
gone.
would have been over just the way Liverpool's was. So what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, Arsenal, you understand, not doing anything in January was what helped Liverpool. Liverpool from January to December. Go and look at the numbers. When Salah fell off in February, they weren't very good anymore.
Yeah,
So again,
but they had gone very far, so then they couldn't be caught.
again, 7 points. You're saying 7 points is very far. At the point it was 7 points. At the point it was six. Liverpool were 6 points with the game in hand that could have made it nine. They played the game in hand. They didn't win it. They think they drew the game in hand. It was seven. At the point it dropped to four before it
Yeah,
built up again. It
yeah,
dropped to four
true,
at the
true.
point, then it built up again.
Yeah,
So the
yeah, yeah.
Arsenal just could not capitalize on
I mean,
Liverpool's. Go and look at
Well,
the way it went
also,
last year and the
Arsenal
results.
deliberately 3 points away, and at Brentford, Everton, and somewhere else by making 7, 8 changes. Like we played Kieran Tierney as a left winger at times because we were
yeah,
resting players ahead of the Champions League
the
game.
Champions
Had we
League,
still
yeah,
been in a title race at that point and believed that, then that could have been very different. But I do. So I think you're right. Liverpool have been poor since January 2025, but they were worthy title winners last year. But I've just got two questions for you, if that's all right. One, I was going to ask you what do you think about Slot's future, but kind of answer that. But who do you want to replace him? But secondly, do you think this window would have been different had you not signed Isak, for instance, and signed Gehi or a CDM in the summer instead? Because I remember making a prediction that was laughed at the time. And 80, you'll remember this. You were on the stream. You were the
yeah,
only person on the stream that didn't laugh at me. I thought Arsenal would win the league because I thought Liverpool's window was sexier, but Arsenal's was addressed the needs better.
yeah,
But I said
yeah.
I changed my mind on who that would be if Liverpool went out and signed Gehi or a CDM. At that point, I thought Liverpool could win the league. What do you sort of think on those two things? I'm really interested from a Liverpool fan perspective.
Okay. Firstly, I don't think so. Had we not gotten Isak, for example, I think the team could have been in a similar predicament. You understand? It probably wouldn't have changed much, even if they had gotten Gehi. Why do I say so? Again, Gehi is a very good centre back, but people need to remember something. Coming into the season, after last season, nobody was saying that Gehi was a better centre back than Konate. Konate was the player that was in discussions with Gabriel Saliba. You know, the consensus was okay. Van Dijk is the best centre back in the league. Then we're not talking about Gabriel Saliba, Konate. Those were the conversations that people were having.
There were
as of
genuine
last season.
discussions. Which pairing's a better one? Konate, Van Dijk, or
Exactly.
Gabriel
So now,
Saliba?
yeah. So now the point I'm making is why Liverpool fans especially felt like Liverpool needed another centre back was because Konate rarely has injury-free seasons. He's almost always injured. So if you've let Jarrell Kwanzaa go, you now have Leone and Joe Gomez as your backups. I don't rate Joe Gomez, which now leaves Leone that was 18 years coming from Italy. So if Konate got injured, what were you now going to do? You know, it was either you go to Joe Gomez or Leone. So that's why most people felt that okay, Liverpool do need another centre back. When the season started, they started off poorly. They were not defending well. People now started saying, "Oh, you can get Gehi." But what I was saying is, at that point in time, from last season, nobody believed that Gehi was a better centre back than Konate. So I can understand why they may not have done that. But even if they did go for Gehi, as centre backs, you can have a very, very fantastic game. But the thing with football is it takes one domino in your back line to fall. If you look at the Arsenal back line, as good as they were, when Aston brought in Ben White, it sort of had a cascading effect across the back line to an extent. He can make one mistake and then the team has conceded. You understand? He can make a second mistake, the team has conceded. When you look at the midfield also, you had Gravenberch that everybody believed was going to start as the CDM. You had McAllister that was the starting CM, and you had Zoboslai or Florian Wirtz. If you're bringing in another CDM, you're looking at it like, where is he also going to play? Because the thinking behind what Liverpool did towards the end of last season, they moved Zoboslai from attacking midfield into centre midfield. So they believe that Zoboslai could also deputize in centre midfield. Florian Wirtz could slot into the attacking midfield position. So many things happen. Even if you did not get Isak, had you gotten all those other players, and crucially, Salah's form in attack did what it did. Nobody expected Salah to fall off a cliff. He literally fell off the cliff.
Yeah.
With Salah falling off the cliff, there was almost nothing else Liverpool could have done this summer that would have made them, you understand, genuine title contenders. Because when you look at last season, Salah I had arguably the greatest Premier League season of all time. That was what propelled Liverpool to the title. And when Salah's form dropped in February, he had only, like, I think one goal from open play and like 2 or 3 goals with penalties. March, he was poor. From the PSG game, when Salah was failing to score or assist anymore, Liverpool started struggling to win games. It was a struggle from there. So, irrespective of what they had done in other positions, with Salah, and remember, crucially, Salah was scoring, Salah was assisting. He was the one scoring, he was the one creating. The Liverpool midfield is not designed to create.
Yeah, they're like laborers, man.
Yes, they are not designed to be very, very creative. That was why they went and got Florian Wirtz. So, with Salah falling off the cliff, with Wirtz struggling to adapt to the Premier League, there was almost nothing Liverpool could have done this summer, unless you're talking about bringing maybe a Michael Olise or someone that could have literally replaced Salah on the right wing. There was nothing
like a Semenyo. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, exactly. There was nothing they could have done that would have drastically altered the season. Now, they may have been comfortable in third, but they wouldn't have challenged.
Yeah, true. So now, since Michael Carrick took over at Manchester United, he has had 32 points, which is basically the highest points total from any team, with Arsenal and Man City on 27. How would you rate what he has done at the club? One, what was your take on this game in terms of scoring early, then having those errors that brought Liverpool back into the game? And what's your take on Mino in regard to how Amorim never wanted to use him and how he has had a renaissance at the club?
Yeah, I would say it has been it has been quite a change in fortune for Manchester United, and I don't think we as fans expected that as well. So too did most of the teams that are also in the league. They didn't expect this form. They didn't expect that this Manchester United actually existed. I mean, they all thought it was going to be the same team that were going to struggle like they did last season.
Yeah.
And I, for one, too, did not believe that as well. Said we we needed an overhaul of players. It's that same players who struggled to adapt to the 3-4-3 system that have been excelling in a 4-2-3-1 formation. So, I mean, which brings us back to the topic that usually hangs over lots of our head. Is it the coach's fault or the player's fault? So right now we can actually see it has always been the coach's fault. I refused to accept it before, but right now I have fully accepted it. And this was clearly on the coach in itself. He just couldn't drum this formation into the players for them to understand it. So that aside, yeah, Carrick has done exceedingly well. And then, like I said again last week, we need to keep him. Let's move this thing forward. He has experience. I mean, he's building the experience in itself. And these errors that are happening now, it's good they're happening now. It helps us. There is always a learning curve to all this, and I'm glad it's happening now because when these errors happen right now, you're prone to stop it from happening in the future. And I hope it does. It helps you understand what part you have to play into getting the right results and getting the right tactics out of errors that lead to goals in itself. We haven't had this much errors in a long while. I mean, I think this should be our second or third error this season, leading
For a
directly.
moment, I thought that was Onana in goal, man.
Yes. I mean, I would not blame Lamens. He's due an error. All goalkeepers are due an error. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay, so
Or
Mino's Renaissance,
oh, sorry, what?
or Mino's Renaissance. Your
Yeah,
thoughts?
yeah. So yes, Mino was one of those that clearly didn't fit into the 3-4-3 system. I mean, try as he may, he just didn't. Amorim didn't know who to put on the bench. Was it Casemiro or Bruno in place of Mino? And I think that was why there was. I mean, he lost focus in himself. He lost. He even lost. He wasn't even sure he was that great player that was coming up through
Ten
the
Hag.
youth ranks. Yeah, through Ten Hag and through the youth ranks. But this formation itself has now brought out how good and excellent he can be at either playing the holding position and the sixth position or the fourth position. He could even as well play the eighth position directly behind the striker because he's that creative in itself. Yeah, and I'm I am happy for him. I am exceedingly happy for him, and so far so good. He has boosted his opportunity of representing England and the World Cup, and I'm almost certain he might make the team. He
Awesome,
might make
awesome.
the team. And yeah, so far so good. Confidence has grown back in most of the players. Dallo, for one, is taking on challenges. Dallo was another player who could easily have dropped out of the team if Man United had another right wing back in the team because he was one that was also struggling with the formation, with the 3-4-3 formation itself. He just couldn't fit into that right wing back position. But so far, he has worked on himself and he has improved much better at his basic right back position, which is where he has been excelling in the previous time. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Do, do
So,
you do you think that obviously he wanted to go 4-3-3, right, Amarin?
Mm,
But do you think he
mm,
should have, and I'm using Arteta obviously as an Arsenal supporter, but other managers have done this, right? Where
mhm.
actually what they've done is they've gone right. I want to move to this system, but that doesn't suit the players I'm going to have, so I'm going to go with 4-4-2 or 4-3-3, whatever suits,
Mhm.
and then start pressing towards it because your summer window really improved the attack, right? No question, but it didn't really do a lot to fit the system that you were playing. You
Yeah.
kind of needed the wing back. Do you think he should have really, if he taken that approach, do you think things would have worked out differently, or do you think just the man management of the players coupled with this tactical inflexibility meant it was never going to work at United for Amarin? Because you've definitely improved since. And my view, by the way, I thought you were always going to make Europe this season. I thought you were going to finish fifth or sixth this season. You're going to finish better than that, and credit to Carrick for it, which is helped by playing once a week pretty much. But I've always thought your first 11 is good enough to get fifth or sixth in the league, and that was my view in August. And Carrick's going to make it happen, and with knobs on, right?
Yeah. So I mean, this was always brought up to him last season and early this season. Why can't you start with 4-4-2? And he kept on insisting it's his formation. He has to drum into the player's system. It will work. It takes time. It will work. But apparently it eventually didn't work out for him, and he had to leave. I mean, as a coach, he had taken his stance that this is what he needs that needs to work for him. And I don't blame him for that. You need to take your stand and insist that this is how I intend to play.
Yeah,
This is how I
fair enough.
intend to play. Fair enough to him. But the results are all that matters in these kind of situations. And apparently the results didn't work out for him and he had to leave.
Yeah. Okay, so Dom, this is going to have some personal connection for you. You had the former manager from Arsenal, Unai Emery, and of course, you had our enemies in Spurs. They were basically languishing in relegation waters, and we're hoping that they're actually going to get relegated. Even though you know that if they get relegated, you're not going to get your 6 points from them anymore. But better the Zerbi, they've kind of changed because even in the games they played prior to him coming, I think his first game was Sunderland. It was a 1-0 loss, but you could see the difference in their approach. And of course, the Brighton game where they actually had the 2-1 lead in the 90th minute before they had the equalizer. Wolves, obviously, they're going to win Wolves. Then, of course, this Villa game. So, with where Spurs are playing now, is it fair to say that the Zerbi has done enough to potentially keep them up?
I like this. Look, taking all rivalry aside, let's just do some proper analysis. I like the De Zerbi hire. I like the Thomas Frank hire, but Thomas Frank, it wasn't going to work from 2 or 3 games in because it was obvious the Spurs fans and the Spurs players did not buy into Thomas Frank. And when you're in that situation, it's not going to work. We saw it. We were just discussing Amarin. There were so many examples from the league, even just this season, right, where it's not going to work. But De Zerbi understands the league, and he's able to galvanise sides and get results out of him. My concern about De Zerbi was they didn't give him enough time because historically De Zerbi takes a little bit of time to embed his system before he starts to wield results. And that
Yeah.
was my fear from a Tottenham perspective about De Zerbi. But I think Tottenham have found the right manager now. And I think that sketchy win against Wolves, because it could have easily been a defeat, by the way, against Wolves, gave them the old Big Mo, the momentum there, and they went on. And look, and in this game, they also got quite fortunate because in paper they should lose comfortably to Villa. Villa are Champions League, Tottenham battling relegation, and Tottenham fans aren't used to it. Tottenham players aren't used to it in a way that, say, West Ham, Leeds, Nottingham Forest players far more used to it. And I think
Yeah.
that does have an effect here. But Villa made significant changes for this side. With the injuries they got, the drop-off was big. The squad drop-off was big. Again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about trying to compete on multiple fronts is so difficult. And it was an abject performance from Villa. Spurs definitely worth their 3 points, no question about it. And it gives them a real lifeline now because they've gone 6 points from 2 games. It's not over. I really do worry about Sunday from an Arsenal perspective, but Spurs could go on and be 5 points clear. I haven't got the table in front of me. I probably should have of West Ham going into that game. Maybe it's 4 because if they win again at the weekend, they've all played first. But Tottenham deserved this game. Emery doing us no favours again, at all. But I think Tottenham may well survive now, but it's a bit like the league title. They're the favourites to survive, but it's not done, and there could well be twists and turns to come.
All right. So Toye, Vicario, Davis, Romero, Kulusevski, Simmons, Solanke, Kudus, Odobet. Madison just coming back. So Tottenham's injury list has been terrible all season long.
It's been terrible for 2 years.
Yeah, for 2 campaigns. Has this been an issue with the club in terms of maybe their sports science or medicine, or has it just had bad luck in general?
I think it's bad luck. When these things happen, I think it's bad luck. We've seen teams go play one season without having injuries, and then go the next season, and then the injuries just start racking up. At times. So I think this is just one of those cases because It's not like, again, it's just hard luck for Tottenham. The injuries, I can't really explain it, but how bad can the okay? I'll put it like this: irrespective of how bad the sports science at Spurs is today, it's still going to be considered better than what sports science was for the players in the 2000s, and and previous other, many other seasons before, and you still didn't see this level of injuries, you understand, happening to the players. Are you going to say it's the training regime? They've had different managers in that spell. They've had what they call them, our man from last season, mate. What's his name again? Postecoglou. You've had Postecoglou struggle with these issues. You had then bring in saying that have the issues. Thomas Frank having the issues again. So basically, what I'm just saying is, it's just I think it's just down to ill luck for Spurs at this time.
Okay, fair enough. So, Machu, let's go to the final game. In the last 10 fixtures for Chelsea, they've lost 8 and actually had a run of even 5 games without even scoring until this João Pedro late goal that led to the to break that dog. Obviously, there's no more Liam Rosinho to blame. They have Callum McFarlane that is currently in the helm. How bad have things got to this club? Knowing fully that mathematically they can't qualify for the Champions League anymore. Do you think do you think they can save them now in the Conference League campaign, or do you think that they're not going to make Europe at all with the way they are going?
Yeah, so I was just going through the table right now. In the league itself, they've only won one of their last 10 games. One of their last 10 games. And I don't know. I mean, I think they just want the season to just be ended right now and just take a break. Because I need to ask a question. These players, have they really rested?
So what do you mean by rest?
From last season, after their Champions of the World Club World Cup, they had only 3 weeks rest, right?
Yeah, well, but they're not the only ones. PSG was there, Bayern Munich was there, Real Madrid was there.
I know, but PSG doesn't play as much games as Chelsea plays.
No. Enrique knows how to keep his players a whole lot fresher.
Fit. Yes, he does that. I mean, I'm not putting it out there that it's probably burnout, but I just think these Chelsea players are tired right now. I just think so, because there is absolutely nothing working in their favor. And this is the next round of fixtures. I don't think they're going to win. They may just pick up a victory in one game. So they have Liverpool next. They have Liverpool next. They have Spurs next. Spurs might defeat them there, but because Spurs has been their whooping team, that might just be the victory that they might pick out of their last. And then they have Sunderland next. So in their last 3 games, I think the only game that I'm certain they might win is Spurs. But they definitely would lose to Liverpool and Sunderland.
Okay, so just to add on what Doye said earlier. Sorry, I'll get back to you, Machu. He said, Okeoga says, can't completely attribute it to hard luck only. Multiple managers couldn't lift them out. As you rightly said, Doye, there's something about the club management that brings in toxicity and some ill wind. So fair enough. All right, so go ahead, Machu.
Yeah. That's a good point. So back to Chelsea. I don't even think Man United was not this bad last season. Did we win only 1 game in 10 games? I mean, this form is just terrible. I know we finished 15th, but we're picking up. At least we'll win 2 games out of 8 games. Run another 5 without winning. Win 1 out of 5 games.
Had the relegation teams last season been West Ham and Forest,
as serious
maybe
as
you would
this
have
was,
been in lower league.
Yeah, to be honest, yes.
Yes, I agree. I mean, in relegation, these teams are much serious than
because for like 2 seasons in a row, as you're coming from Championship, they're basically going back. It's only this year that Sunderland and Leeds have kind of offset that.
Yeah, offset that. Man United had 39 points, and if you check now, 39 points. Yeah, look at it. Tottenham has.
Tottenham
Tottenham has
37,
37.
West
West Ham
Ham
has
30,
36.
Exactly.
and they still have 3 games to go.
And they still have 3 games.
Yeah, yeah, I
So
agree. I
So
agree.
so Chelsea in itself, they can't wait for the season to be over and done with, and they really need rest. I mean, there's nothing else again I can say.
I,
They
I, I,
Go ahead,
they
Oye.
no, let him finish. Let him finish.
Okay, go ahead.
they they were they had the position of play today, but they just couldn't take away their chances. Palmer, who we know who has a 90% score rate and penalties, fluffed his penalty today again. I mean, it's just so terrible with them. Obviously now Spurs is meeting them next week now. You know the Europa final last season was the Battle of Bastards. This time around it to be next week to be probably Battle of the London Bastards because you have 2 London Bastards right now in Chelsea and Spurs that will be playing each other right now and next week. So that game is going to be very funny. So for this season, it just needs to come to an end for Chelsea, and they just need to just take a break, look at their finance, see who they can procure and bring in. I don't even know who they can actually bring in right now that can aid them in their growth for next season. Yeah, that's my take for now.
Yeah, sorry, I was just on this Chelsea issue again. I know I was discussing with a Chelsea friend of mine, and I told him before the season started, Chelsea did not even sign floor raisers. Talk more or less was signing ceiling raisers. When you look at the quality of players that Chelsea were bringing into the squad, if you look at that Chelsea team, with and it's just like almost the same thing that happened to Liverpool when Chelsea were good, but the season that they were very good, they were not even very good. The season that Palmer himself was actually very good, and then Palmer now has sort of fallen off. If you look at the Chelsea team across the board, I usually do something mentally. If I want to look at teams, I look at where can you get goals from in your team across, and I have a mental note of what do I expect from players in this position in these kind of teams in the top teams. So, for example, now if I say your center forward now, you're looking at maybe on average, if your center forward can give you close to between 18 to 22 goals. If it does better than that, it helps another position. If you look at the Chelsea team with Palmer's drop in form, Neto doesn't give you enough from wide rights. From left, Gittins and Garnacho, they don't give you nearly enough with their output. Centre forward, João Pedro has done well this season. Cole Palmer has dropped from now. If you're doing it like that, remember that you're having to move Enzo Fernandez back into centre midfield. When you look at the Chelsea across, even down to the back line, the defensive line and everything, they don't have enough goals in the team. Chelsea does not have a lot of quality. They are across their back line. They have probably where they have 2 players that you can call quote unquote world class with respect to their position, which is maybe Cucurella and Rhys James. But again, world class defenders, if you don't have it in the right end of the pitch, it affects the team. You can have 2 world class strikers and average defenders, and your team is still going to be really good. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, your team can be really good. So when you look at Chelsea across board, they don't have enough quality. I was saying it to the guy at the point. I said, rather than getting a Delap and getting a Gittins, you can combine that money and get maybe one Victor Osimhen. One Victor Osimhen does more for your team than having this caliber of players. So many. You take this one, you put the next one. You take him and you plug the next one. They are not doing enough for you. The Chelsea team is devoid of proper quality. In fact, at the point, I because looking at it, I was saying that the players that are even signing contracts here, understand? I was even thinking by now, so those players would have started looking elsewhere because the project, it will leave you disillusioned. You understand? You have a manager that is doing well, and then suddenly because of some issues with the board and things like that, they sacked that manager, brought in someone that the players could not even vibe with. It's a problem. again, the Chelsea issue is so from the top down, the management, the players, everything is just a mess at Chelsea. So yeah, in fact, if they still continue with this, they have this witchcraft that they also do. Because I was saying if you cannot want to compete with an Arsenal, a Man City, and Liverpool that don't have witchcrafts that will go into the market and sign players that are of higher quality than your own players, paying them more money than your own players, and you expect your own players that you're paying how much you understand to come and now really contend and compete. You get so for Chelsea, it's a mess all around. You understand? It's just a big mess, and I'm not surprised at what happens to Chelsea one bit. I think
Uh,
okay. Yeah,
I was going to say 80's gone, but I mean, I agree entirely with that. I think Chelsea's issues are multiple. One, as you alluded to there, and I'll do this very quickly. There's no idea on who the starter is, and they rotate similar with similar, but there's no Bob, possibly Enzo and Caicedo. There's no massive and Cole Palmer, but who's had a poor season. There's no like out and out start, and you know Neto comes out, Gittins comes in. Neither of them are really striking fears into right backs. You know, they're buying young players. There's no experience there to help them through and help them develop, and there's no idea on what their best side is or how they're going to play, and I don't understand their tactical identity. And the sort of process here seems to be we're just going to buy players and move them on and keep the club going that way. But I fear for them on multiple fronts. One, there doesn't seem to be, from an outside perspective, a desire to go and win and be successful. There's just a desire to go and make money. That is the
Yes.
perception from outside the club. Whether that's right or wrong is irrelevant in many ways because that's a perception and that's what players will be buying into when they're signing. The second thing here is their financial position is dire. They made massive, massive, massive losses this season. Yes, this coming season's financial results, which aren't out yet, will be boosted by that big World Club Cup victory and the money associated with that. But ultimately, they have players on long contracts. The value isn't there for the resale. Many players want out. They're on big wages and the club's financial position is really dire, coupled with the fact that they have sold the stadium to themselves. They sold the stadium ground to themselves. It wasn't a stadium, sorry, it's a hotel. They sold the women's team. They're running out of assets to sell. And that suggests to me they're going to have to make big sales this summer. And are they going to have the money to actually go in and replace these guys? Because what they need to do is bring in experienced and top level winners if they want to be competitive again. And they're going to be doing all of that from outside the Champions League, which is where the money is and where the sponsorship comes in. Chelsea are in potential big, big trouble here going forward.
Yeah, so I have a couple of folks on the chat. Sorry, I had the power cuts, had to get my alternative power on. So he said Chelsea got it wrong with the managerial sacking of Maresca, and of course, a very ill-advised Rosinho. I wonder the driver for his hiring. If he had come in earlier, they might have even gone to relegation dogfight. Like that Rosinho guy, man, it was just a terrible thing to watch. From the game against Arsenal in the Carabao Cup, it was very clear that this guy was not all there tactically. Obviously, he had a couple of wins against the likes of Charlton and thought that he was all right. But it's very evident that he was kind of lacking. And obviously, we can see how the result has panned out. I'm very certain in that FA Cup final, they probably be smashed by Man City, although worse things have happened. All right, guys, so let's go to our surprise of the week. I'll start with you, Matthew. What was your surprise of this week?
I would say Sunderland draw with Wolves itself. Oh no, I take that back. The destruction of Fulham by Arsenal.
Oh, nice. So how was it surprising for you?
Yeah, I expected a better performance from the Fulham team. I mean, they were riding. They just had a victory over Aston Villa, and I expected them to be because they are also trying to push for. Hold on a sec. No, they are trying to push for
Europe.
Eu- Europe in itself. I expected the game to be tight, much tighter than was played out on Saturday, but they just didn't turn up for the party. Yeah, so that's my surprise.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Do you?
Look, let's not kid ourselves. There was one surprise this weekend, and that was the Chelsea game against Nottingham Forest. That was the surprise this weekend because a funny thing happened. I think I had checked the odds for the game with the bookies, and They had Chelsea at close to 1 point, I think 1.75 to win the game. And then I saw the lineups.
The odds dropped
That's
to
what.
1.42.
Yes. So now the funny thing is when you look at the lineups for what they call it, the lineup for Forest. Forest had only Ego Jesus and Sales as the two players that were probably what they call it, that
First
were probably
teamers, yeah.
starters. Yes, first teamers in the team to play Chelsea. So immediately I saw the lineup, I was like, okay, look, there's no way that Chelsea are going to lose to these guys. Now it was wholesale change. The back four was changed. The midfield was changed. You understand? He had Taiwa Awuni playing up front. So I was like, look, Chelsea probably would have too much for Nottingham Forest. And the goals were coming only in one direction. Chelsea managed to score one, but they scored one in the 93rd minute.
Yeah.
Like it was crazy. Look, even despite how dire the Chelsea form has been, this was mental. Like to say that this was mental.
Yeah, but then again, when you think about it, Nottingham Forest have won 7 of their last 9, so they're really in
But,
high confidence.
yes, but they had changed the entire team that had won the 7 of the last 9. They changed 9 players.
Yeah,
So
I agree with you. I agree with you.
yes, the
Crazy.
Nottingham player reserve team sort of were beaten. Like, if you look at the Chelsea team, who didn't play for Chelsea? Maybe Rhys James and and they had Derry on the wing. The worst players for Chelsea, you understand? Caicedo,
Yeah.
Lavia, Enzo, Palmer, João
Palmer,
Pedro,
Correa,
internationals
Chaluba.
if you which player from this Nottingham Forest team do you
Can
think
even
is going
start.
to? Yeah, exactly my
Yeah.
point. Because even Igor Jesus is not going to start for Chelsea. So which player
Yeah.
in this their starting lineup do you think would have made it into the Chelsea team?
Yeah,
Sales has
crazy.
been atrocious for a very long time this season.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Dom?
Surprise of the week that I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have a heart attack live on air while the Everton Man City game was ending. I mean, I've got hair left. I'm amazed. I mean, I think in some ways that is still surprise of the week that Everton
Got a result against City?
had no. I was going to say that would have been surprising had they hung on to win that game. But them getting a point, I don't think is a surprise. I think surprise of the week for me is how abject Villa were, despite making the change against Spurs, and they were absolutely atrocious.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily surprised that Spurs got the result because Villa, like Forest, made lots of changes to win with Thursday in mind. Understandable. And therefore, that was sort of Tottenham's lifeline, and Tottenham had a little bit of momentum after Wolves, despite actually not playing well. But
Yeah.
how bad Villa were
Yeah.
stunned me.
Yeah, true, true.
True.
All right, so let's look at the injuries and suspensions for the week, and see how they affected their teams. So for injuries, we had a couple of folks that were out in game week 35. We had Matt Wifa for Brighton, had Emil Smith Rowe for Fulham, Chad Riyad, who came on as a makeshift centre back for Crystal Palace, Bentancur for Tottenham. He had actually had his injury struggle this season and just finally came back, but obviously he's out again. The youngster, Jesse Derry for Chelsea, had his
That
injuries.
was a nasty one, that.
Yeah, that was terrible, man. And of course, there's a clash between Sanchez and Gibbs White. And of course, we spoke about Ballard. So starting with you, Machu, which of these players here do you think would affect their team for their unavailability for the next 3 games? If they're going to be out for
Undoubtedly, Morgan Gibbs White.
yeah,
On
yeah. The guy has been on
undoubtedly,
fire,
but he,
man.
but he just posted like a few minutes ago on Instagram and showed the cuts, and so I don't know how long it takes for protocols.
Concussion.
Yeah, concussion protocols.
Mm.
In basketball, they say it takes about 72 hours, and then you are now rechecked by the
Yeah,
Medical.
it would all
yeah
depend on how he progresses through the next set of checks.
yeah.
Yeah, I
So
wouldn't expect. I'd expect him to be back for Thursday.
Okay, so you
oh
done same
he
thing,
should be
right?
back for Thursday.
I wouldn't be shocked if he's back on Thursday. I'm not saying he will. I've not seen that, but I wouldn't be
Hmm.
shocked if he's back on Thursday.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I feel Thursday might be too soon for him though. Maybe he might be
yeah.
back for the weekend, probably.
They shouldn't. I'm really big on this. I love the fact the NFL take this seriously, and I think soccer, football, European football, whatever you want to call it, should take it equally as seriously,
Yes, sir.
right? But I wouldn't be shocked to see him rush back and then.
Yeah, for a game of that magnitude, yeah.
Yeah,
Dom,
I really wouldn't be.
Yeah.
You watch the NBA, right? That's his name, right? Don.
Don, yeah,
Done.
Yeah.
Don.
So do you watch the NBA?
NBA, no. NFL, yes.
Okay, because when Victor Wembanyama hit his head on the court, and he was dazed in the game, and he actually left the game. The standard days for protocol is 72 hours, and they played. Assuming they played yesterday against the Trailblazers in their game two, and they needed to play them in their game three. Wemby missed just he traveled with the team for the game three, which was on Friday. On Sunday, he was starting. And the NBA are also very big on concussion protocols. But then again, it all depends on the player and the drive and their will to
Yeah,
play.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
And how
so
they
Uh,
respond, right?
yes, and
yeah,
how
They
they
yeah,
can
but
get the
respond.
same bang on the head and have very different,
uh,
uh, consequences. I mean, I watched two players clash heads the other week, and both appeared fine. And about 30 seconds later, my centre back partner was literally looked like he just was absolutely drunk. But
Mhm.
in the instant reaction, he looked like he'd come off better. And it's funny, how it can affect different people in different
Yeah,
ways.
yeah, because remember how David Luiz and Jimenez went for a header,
Yeah, yeah,
and Jimenez actually broke his skull.
yeah.
So, man, yeah, so head injuries are nothing to be scoffed at. Do you want
Yeah.
to say something?
yeah. I said, but that's the main reason why they have the concussion. Why they now say they have putting it as concussion protocol because they started taking the decision to play out of the player's hands. So even if the player is like claiming to be a macho man and things like that, he still has to. They're still going. They're not going to let him make that decision of, oh, I think I can go. I think I can go. You understand? Because
Yeah,
that was that was part of the issues that um led to if you go through the whole NFL and whatever with concussed players, you understand, keep on playing and the whole CTE and things like
yeah,
that, you understand. So they've actually taken this out of the players' hands. The doctors will be the ones to clear the players, irrespective of what the players
And it should be an
say.
independent doctor as well, not a
Yeah,
club doctor, an independent doctor.
yeah, true, true. All right, so let's look at the Premier League table
Oh,
after
hang
game
on.
week.
Can I go on my key injury?
Yeah.
AT.
Okay, yeah, sure, sure, sure.
Key injury is Robert Sanchez because that's a big result for Liverpool. That
Yeah,
come
yeah,
on,
well,
Sanchez was there when they were ready. It wasn't not two. They were two down or three down when Sanchez was on the pitch. Sanchez
yeah,
is like Jorgensen
No,
and Sanchez is really
no,
different.
so he's saying that it's key
it,
for Liverpool because of
it's a
his mistakes
big
and
boost for
error.
Liverpool.
Oh, okay,
So
advantage. Okay,
yes,
okay.
I was joking. I mean, I
no, he
don't
was
well,
saying
actually.
it's
Yeah. I was joking, saying it's a big boost for Liverpool that Robert
he
Sanchez
was
is
just
out.
gaffering there now.
yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
I
yeah.
understand.
But in all honesty, I don't think any of these are, assuming Gibbs White is back quickly, which I think he will be. I don't think any of these are massively significant for any of the clubs, to be
Yeah,
honest.
true. Because then again, we're towards the end of the season, so I think
Yeah.
most of them will probably think of their World Cup plans at this point.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's my honest answer. I was joking, obviously, about Robert Sanchez, but I don't think I don't think if Morgan Gibbs White is out Thursday, that's the one that makes the biggest difference because I think Forrest is safe in the league, but I suspect he will be. I just don't think any of the others will be game changers for any of their sides, to be honest.
Yeah,
Given where they are and what they're competing for.
true. Okay, so let's look at the Premier League table. We're about to rounding up the stream. At the bottom half, as always, you have the regulars. Nottingham Forest form is amazing. WDWWW. Like they don't look like a team that's supposed to be in this place right now with the way they are playing. But obviously, you have to think of the errors they had early in the campaign. Clearly, Burnley and Wolves are going down. But looking at Spurs and West Ham, I'd like to get your thoughts on this and watch you. Do you think is it going to be a twist in the tail, or is this settled like this?
So Arsenal has West Ham has a very difficult game against Arsenal, and
Yeah,
I absolutely don't think they are going to win that game.
God,
It's
I
going to
hope
be
you're
very
right.
dicey. Yeah, but on the other side too, I also don't think Spurs are going to defeat Leeds United.
At home.
Yeah, at home.
Oh,
At
interesting.
home.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
then again, we're going to go to the predictions and we'll confirm that.
okay. So now I'm just giving you the insight. So there isn't going to be a lot of change in this on this table come at the end of the next game week. I think we are
Yeah.
just going to only see Forest go up a little further by after defeating Newcastle. It's still going to be just Tottenham and West Ham in this position right now because the best both teams will get at their various fixtures are draws
Yeah,
or a
fair enough.
loss.
Fair
Yeah.
enough. Okay, but the top half, man, teams are very, very tight. From Arsenal being at the top in Man City to basically that Bournemouth, Brentford, Brighton position is really crazy. And of course, I'm guessing that Chelsea go to the bottom half soon, right, Doye? Do you think they're going to lose more games?
Chelsea, yeah. But the thing is, I can't even trust Liverpool to do the needful and face Chelsea this weekend. You understand? But hopefully they do. It's again just to give me bragging right over certain people that are close to me. But
Yeah. All right. So finally, let's go to the predictions. This is what I love the most. So the last game week in game week 34, we had Douye, we had Machu, and we had Henry give their predictions. So obviously, because the Man City game was still ongoing, so I could not, put in the results. But Douye had just 3/10, pretty much. Got only the Leeds game, got Arsenal, Fulham, and Bournemouth Palace. Henry only 4 because obviously Everton didn't win. But Machu gets a 5. So I guess
Wow,
Machu.
I got 5.
Yeah, because if you add the draw of the Everton Man City, so that gives you a 5/10. So you'll be
I didn't get a
basically.
copy of this, so I requested for it. Or don't we get to see what we predicted?
Oh yeah, you did. And now this is when you get to see it. But then I can also put it in the group for you if you want. That's fine. All right, guys. So finally, let's cook with next week's predictions. And of course, we'll start with Doye here. Liverpool, Chelsea.
Liverpool, Chelsea. I'm gonna go Liverpool to win the game. 2-0.
Dom,
Liverpool 2-1.
what you?
Liverpool 4-1.
God damn. All right, Doye, Brighton, Wolves.
Brighton 3-0.
Dom,
Same score.
Matthew,
Brighton 2-0.
Doye, Fulham, Bournemouth.
I think I'm gonna go 1-1.
Dom,
I'm going to go 1-1.
Matthew,
1-2.
nice. Doye, Sunderland, Man United.
Sunderland, Man United.
Yeah.
Sunderland are gonna do it for me, and they're gonna beat Manchester United by 2-1.
Dom,
I'm going 2-1, but the other way round, Manchester United to win away at the Stadium of Light 2-1.
Matthew,
Sunderland 3. Manchester United 1.
nice. Doye, Man City, Brentford.
Man City, Brentford. This is the game we put our title charge back on. Man City, Brentford. I'm gonna go Manchester City 5, Brentford 1.
God damn. Dom,
God, I hope that's wrong. Manchester City 3, Brentford 1, which I also hope is very wrong.
yeah. Matthew,
2-2. Man City, Brentford 2-2.
Now that's
Amen.
more like it. That's the result I want.
Amen to that, man. Okay, Doye, Burnley, Aston Villa.
Burnley, Villa. I think they're gonna play out the draw 1-1.
Dom,
0-2.
Matthew,
Yeah, 0-2. 0-2 as well.
awesome.
0-2.
Doye, Crystal Palace, Everton.
This is the game.
I'll give that one to. I'll give it to Everton 2-1.
Yeah, same
Dom,
score. Same score.
Same
Same
score.
score.
Matthew,
So depending on the Crystal Palace mood, they might overpart. Everton win. Everton win 1-0, 0-1.
okay. Doye, Nottingham Forest,
Yeah.
Newcastle.
Forest Newcastle. I'm gonna go with a Forest win 2-1.
Dom,
Forest 1, Newcastle United 1.
Macho,
3-1 Forest.
Doye, in your full hating mode, West Ham Arsenal.
Yes, and the highs become the lows. You understand in this game. Unfortunately for West Ham United, I think West Ham will win the game 2-1.
Dom,
I hate you. I am going to go West Ham 1, Arsenal 2.
Macho,
West Ham 1, Arsenal 1.
okay, then
That's my fear. That is my fear.
the final fixture, Doye, Spurs Leeds.
Spurs and Leeds. I think Spurs will win that one. Probably 2-1.
Dom,
1-1.
Macho,
Spurs 1, Leeds 3.
awesome. All right, guys. So as always, at the end of the stream, we
Man
talk
City
about.
Palace. Man City Palace.
No. We don't use double game week. Just use the game week
Oh,
in focus. Yeah, that's
okay.
fine. Yeah. So overall, Doye, your thoughts on game week 36?
Yeah, it's what you can call a game week from hell. You understand? Basically, everything I wanted to, everything went in the direction I was hoping for, from the Manchester City game to the Arsenal game, the Liverpool game against Manchester United. You understand? It's set me back. You get, because I had a friendly wager with a friend saying that Liverpool finish in the top three. You know, again, it's mental to think that they couldn't manage to finish in the top three this season. But for now, anyways, that's what I'm hoping, that Manchester United loses Sunderland. It's still gonna happen. It's still on the cards. But yeah, it's just a game. It's been a game with from hell. But you know, it's football. You understand, and you can't take football that seriously. You know, you just yourself and move on. It's for the fun of it. And
Fair
yeah,
enough.
congratulations to us now. For now,
Dom,
It's been a great game week, isn't it? Can we have it again next week? Look, it's advantage North London in terms of the title race and the relegation race, but this title's not over. And I think City coming back to get the draw, albeit, it's 2 points lost for them, gives them a real chance still in this title race. So there's a long way to go, just as Tottenham winning and West Ham losing, it is the same at the other end. But I think we're in set for a really amazing, intense, exciting last 3 games of the season, with Europe on the line, multiple competitions, relegation still to be decided for that final place, and a league title on the line. If you're a scriptwriter for the Premier League, this is what you want, right? But a very good week from my side, and I'm happy.
Macho,
Yeah, same here. Exciting week. Like I said last week, the rest of these game weeks are all going to be very exciting. Liverpool Manchester United was one, and thankfully enough, we saved the best for the last. This City and Everton, and it's going to be the same too next game week.
how is that? How was that the best? How was that the best?
It's the best for
How
the
was that
last.
the
I mean,
best?
exciting game. A 3-3
If
scoreline is
City,
an exciting.
if City won 4-3, we'll be saying it's the best for last. Look, listen us. Some of us have agendas that
So,
we have to protect.
so as a fan who is clearly just enjoying the game, this was a very exciting game. Not
yeah.
we are not looking at the title race on itself. This is one of the games that in 10 years' time you will see it on record as one of the most exciting games. This
Who do you want
3-3
to win the
scoreline.
league? Who do you want to
Anybody.
win the league?
I'm a Man United fan, I don't care. But
Okay, you know what I mean?
I'm getting to what
Surely you want Arsenal over City as a
yes, I
United
want
fan.
Aston over City. Yes, I want Aston
How,
over City.
how can you? How?
Because I'm a
Why?
Man United fan.
Yeah.
You see,
If you switch Tottenham and Arsenal round, I'm cheering on City every day of the week and twice on Sundays. And I hate City.
Yeah, I agree. True. All right, so Arsenal domination, what's the plan for the rest of the week?
You think I have a plan?
No, I know you will have shots.
Yeah.
So
There'll be the preview tomorrow, match reaction, and then shorts every day. the week. God knows what on, but yeah, hopefully it will be a good week. Big game for Arsenal tomorrow. Big week. With West Ham on Sunday, but and then Arsenal play once a week after that, so they get something called rest. Mikel Arteta will have to crack out the dictionary to see what that is. You look, big week for Arsenal. This could be our second ever European final on the horizon if we win tomorrow, and it doesn't get bigger than that. It's a huge game.
Yeah, I think I need to go and get my Atleti jersey on or something.
Yeah, like do this
I'm
hate is just
dedicated. I'm
toxic.
dedicated. I'm dedicated. You have to give that to me. I'm dedicated. You understand? I'm
No, I
dedicated
have to
to
give
it.
it to you. I have
Okay,
to give
guys,
it
I'll
to
see
you.
you guys. It's past 7. Let me go and get some things done. It's still sunny, so let me get some things done before it
Yeah,
becomes dark.
we're actually rounding up now, man. So thanks for everyone that's been into this stream as always. Always good to have you guys on the panel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Till then,
Okay.
stay safe, man.
Yeah.
No problem.
Bye.
Bye,
Cheers.
guys.